first light of dawn cuts through the sky as Lieutenant Eloan Frost runs alone along the perimeter track. Her breath forms small clouds in the cold morning air, each stride a quiet defiance against the harshness of her environment. She's out of place here. The other pilots, the legacy aviators, don't see her as one of them. To them, she's a mistake, a diversity hire, someone who doesn't deserve to wear the uniform. Every training session, every flight, is another chance for them to remind her of that. They make sure she knows it, laughing behind her back, tossing insults, and whispering among themselves when she enters the room. But Eloan doesn't let it show. She pushes through the ridicule, focused on the goal ahead. Her feet hit the pavement with steady determination, each step a reminder of why she's here. She knows the only way to earn their respect is through her skill, not words. When she finishes her run and heads back to her quarters, the silence in her room greets her like an old friend. The walls are bare, save for a single model aircraft. An F-14 Tomcat, her one piece of personal history. Her connection to a dream she's fought for, sitting at her desk. She checks her simulator results. They're good. Better than some of the veteran pilots. Still, she's at the bottom of the rankings. It doesn't matter. She'll keep pushing. Keep fighting for every inch of recognition she can get. In the mess hall, she sits alone. The whispers following her as she walks past the other tables. No one speaks to her. No one acknowledges her presence. She's invisible to them. A shadow in a world that doesn't care. Only Chief Warrant Officer Nash notices her, offering a rare nod of acknowledgement. For now, though, she remains an outsider. But Eloan knows that one day, she'll prove them all wrong. The morning sky is clear as Lieutenant Eloan Frost straps into her F divided by a -18 Farad Super Hornet for her first real test. She's surrounded by her fellow pilots, veterans who've spent years honing their skills, and none of them expect her to do anything extraordinary. To them, she's a joke, a rookie who shouldn't even be flying with them. They exchange smirks and whispered comments over the comms, making sure she knows they think she doesn't belong. The formation is set for a simulated combat scenario. The goal is simple: defeat the enemy, outfly the competition. But the veterans have already decided the outcome before the exercise has even started. As they take off, Eloan's hands steady on the controls. She stays focused, blocking out the taunts. The air around her is filled with the familiar hum of the engines and the occasional crackle from the radio. They're flying in tight formation, maintaining precise spacing. But it's clear the veterans aren't taking her seriously. Lieutenant Commander Briggs leads the attack, moving into position with effortless precision, and Eloan follows behind. She knows they're waiting for her to make a mistake, to show that she's not one of them. They get close, too close, and Eloan feels the pressure mounting. Then, just as the veterans start to close in on her, Eloan makes her move. Without warning, she performs a split S, diving into a high-speed spiral, twisting her aircraft through the sky with flawless precision. The veterans scramble to adjust, but it's too late. She's already out of their sights. The surprise in the air is palpable. Briggs tries to recover, but Eloan is already on his tail, her aircraft effortlessly tracking his every move. Her fingers work the controls like they're extensions of her own body, executing a perfect high-G turn that puts her right in his blind spot. The veterans are scrambling now, their once confident smirks replaced by wide eyes and nervous glances. Eloan doesn't stop. She's fluid, calculated, turning the tables in a way they never expected. Each maneuver is faster, more unpredictable than anything they've seen before. She's not just keeping up, she's outclassing them, one by one. The other pilots are forced into evasive actions as they're outflown by someone they once considered inferior. The training exercise that was meant to showcase their skills has turned into Eloan's stage. As the simulation ends and the planes return to base, the air is thick with silence. Briggs lands first. His once confident posture replaced by something closer to defeat. Lieutenant Arlo, the next in line, can't look Eloan in the eye. Even the ever-cocky Lieutenant Wexler seems taken aback. His bravado now gone, Eloan's quiet brilliance has shattered their expectations. The look in their eyes says it all disbelief. They never saw it coming. Eloan's pulse is steady as she lands, perfectly aligning her aircraft on the runway. She powers down her engines, the quiet hum of the jet slowly fading. The veteran's once dismissive attitudes are now replaced with something else. For the first time, they look at her as something more than just an outsider. Something has changed. But Eloan doesn't show it. She's been here, before, fighting for her place, proving herself when no one else believes. The mess hall is filled with the hum of chatter, the clink of trays, and the scrape of chairs against the floor. But for Eloan Frost, it feels like silence. She walks through the room, her eyes scanning the sea of faces, most of them avoiding hers. Every seat is taken, and every table is a reminder that she's not welcome. She finds the only empty spot in the far corner and sits, her tray a small island in the middle of a crowded sea. The whispers are faint but unmistakable, just loud enough for her to hear. They talk about her behind their hands, casting sideways glances her way. She doesn't belong here. One voice mutters, barely above a whisper, just another one of those diversity hires. Another adds, their words sharp like arrows, aimed directly at her. Eloan stares at her meal, pushing the food around on her plate without eating. The isolation is a constant companion. But it's not new. She's used to it by now. Or at least, she tells herself she is. The air feels thick with judgment, the weight of their dismissive attitudes pressing down on her like a physical burden. She feels it in the way the room quiets when she walks in the way the conversations falter, the way the smiles disappear. The veteran pilots don't even try to hide it anymore. Lieutenant Commander Briggs, with his polished uniform and smug grin, makes sure to make her the target of his jokes. "You ready for another round of training today?" Frost, he asks, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The laughter that follows is not friendly, it's mocking, dismissive, a reminder that no matter how well she performs in the air, she'll never be one of them. In the midst of this, only Chief Warrant Officer Nash seems to see something different in her. He's an older man, weathered by years of flying, but there's a sharpness in his eyes that suggests he knows more than he lets on. Nash pulls up a chair across from Eloan, his weathered face unreadable. "You know," he says quietly, "you fly like someone who's been through more than a few simulators." Eloan looks up, meeting his gaze. He's not mocking her, not like the others, but even his support feels distant, like he's acknowledging something she's never been able to express to anyone else. Nash doesn't treat her like an outsider, but he also doesn't offer her the camaraderie of the others. There's a guard up, a wall he's not ready to lower yet. Eloan nods, not saying anything in return. She's used to this. The distance, the cool respect, the silent understanding that never quite becomes friendship. She's learned to keep her head down, to focus on the task at hand, because that's all she can control. The others may look at her like she's a mistake, but she knows better. She's not here by chance. Every step, every flight, every action is part of her plan to prove them wrong. But today, as she sits alone in the corner of the mess hall, even she can't deny the weight of the loneliness, the quiet rejection that follows her everywhere. The days leading up to the combat trials are filled with an eerie calm, the calm before the storm. Eloan spends her time alone, methodically running through tactical maneuvers in her mind. She visualizes each move, how to execute a perfect split S, the precise timing of a high G turn, and the way to outmaneuver an opponent when the pressure is on. The simulations have shown her as capable, but the real test is coming. And she knows it. She can't afford to slip up. Not now. Every failure, no matter how small, could be the one that pushes her out of the program. She has to stay focused, to keep her mind clear of distractions. In the solitude of her room, she mentally replays every mission, every lesson, reminding herself of the skills she has honed over the years. The hours are long, but she's used to it. No one else is here to help her, and the weight of the silence around her feels both suffocating and empowering. She's not just preparing for a training exercise, she's preparing to prove everyone wrong. But the obstacles she faces aren't all internal. As the day of the trial approaches, Eloan begins to notice something strange. Her radio system malfunctions during a pre-flight check. It's not a major issue, but the static is enough to delay the takeoff sequence. She's forced to switch to the backup system, which causes a ripple of laughter from the other pilots. Lieutenant Rhodes throws a sharp jab over the comms. Technical difficulties. Frost, maybe you should stick to simulators. The comment is light, almost casual, but it stings. It's a subtle sabotage. Nothing too obvious, but just enough to rattle her focus. She shakes it off. Though, maintaining her composure, she's dealt with far worse. In the corner of the hangar, Chief Warrant Officer Nash watches her work. He doesn't say much, but the look in his eyes is enough. There's something about Nash, something different from the others. He's seen something in Eloan that the others can't, or won't recognize. As she runs through her pre-flight checks, Nash steps forward, his voice low and steady. You're not here by accident. Frost, don't let them push you around. His words are cryptic, but they strike a chord in her. For a moment, she considers asking him what he means, but she doesn't. There's too much at stake. She simply nods and gets back to work, knowing that, for now, silence is her ally. Every time Eloan looks up, she sees the other pilots. They're moving in groups, preparing with their usual flair, reciting their personal rituals. She doesn't belong to that world. Not yet. She's still an outsider, still fighting to prove she's worthy of being there. But she doesn't need their approval. She needs to prove to herself that she can do this. The trials are just days away, and all she can do is prepare. She breathes in, steady and calm, blocking out the noise of the others. Her mission isn't to be accepted, it's to show that she's already more than good enough. The sky is a battlefield, as Eloan Frost takes her position in the F divided by a -18 farads Super Hornet. Flanked by her team, the combat trials have begun, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Eloan's heart beats in rhythm with the hum of the jet's engines as they break formation and head toward the target area. Ahead, a team of seasoned pilots, led by Lieutenant Commander Briggs, prepares for the attack. They move with the confidence of veterans who've flown countless missions, expecting to dominate the exercise. But Eloan isn't intimidated. She's prepared for this moment, and the calmness she feels in the cockpit is almost unsettling. The exercise begins with the roar of jet engines as both teams close in on their objective. The air is filled with radio chatter, the occasional crackle of static, and the sharp commands of the flight commanders. Briggs pushes his team into an aggressive offensive maneuver, spreading out to encircle Eloan and her teammates. Eloan holds her position, her focus unwavering as she tracks the movements of every aircraft. The pressure mounts, but instead of feeling it, she welcomes it. The aircraft's controls respond to her touch with precision, each movement fluid and calculated. As Briggs's team makes their move, Eloan reacts instantly, executing a high G Cobra maneuver that defies the limits of the Super Hornet. The jet's nose rises sharply, the force pushing her back into her seat as she pivots, flipping the aircraft in a vertical climb. The veterans watch, stunned, as she defies expectations. Lieutenant Harlow attempts to follow, trying to close the gap, but Eloan's speed and agility leave him scrambling to catch up. He's too slow. In the blink of an eye, Eloan is already on his tail, ready to make the kill. The veterans are rattled. Lieutenant Commander Briggs tries to reposition his team, ordering them to regroup. But Eloan is already moving again, executing a perfect split S to drop behind his formation. Coming at them from an unexpected angle, she rolls the aircraft into a steep dive, trading altitude for speed. And when she levels off, she's directly behind Briggs. The targeting systems lock on, and the simulated missile launch registers. Briggs barely has time to react before his screen flashes red, indicating a kill. The silence on the comms is deafening. Eloan doesn't stop. Her aircraft moves with an almost preternatural grace, anticipating every move the veterans make. Lieutenant Wexler tries to cut her off, but she's already out of his reach, twisting her jet in a series of high G turns that should be impossible for the aircraft's limits. But for Eloan, it's effortless. The others are growing desperate, and their confidence is slipping away with each maneuver she performs. They've underestimated her, and now they're paying the price. Briggs's team is falling apart, and Eloan has emerged as the clear threat. Her ability to control the aircraft, pushing it beyond what should be possible, leaves the veterans speechless. As the simulation nears its end, Commander Okoye calls for a regroup, but it's too late. Eloan's precision and control have already secured her victory. Her calmness, her steady hand, has proven to be the deciding factor in a high-stakes training mission. As the planes return to base, the tension is palpable. Briggs and the others land first, their movements stiff, their faces betraying the shock of the exercise. Eloan follows, air landing smooth, controlled, as if it's just another day. The airfield is quiet when she powers down her jet, but the weight of what just happened is inescapable. The other pilots are left in stunned silence. They had underestimated her, and now they have no choice but to recognize her as a serious threat. The combat trials are over, and the airfield hums with the low roar of engines shutting down. As the pilots land, there's a palpable tension in the air. Eloan Frost's exceptional performance has left her fellow pilots in stunned silence. They had been certain that they were in control, that their experience would carry them through, but what they witnessed in the sky was something else entirely, something they couldn't explain. Lieutenant Commander Briggs had always been the confident one, the one who led with swagger, yet, after the exercise, his expression is one of disbelief, a far cry from the cocky smile that had always been there before. The others are equally shaken. Lieutenant Harlow's hands are visibly trembling as he shuts down his aircraft. Lieutenant Wexler can't look anyone in the eye. His usual bravado gone. They had underestimated Eloan at every turn, and now they're paying the price for it. The shift is subtle, but it's there, the dawning realization that they had misjudged her, that she was far more than the outsider they'd thought. It's a blow to their egos, and the quiet among them speaks volumes. As the planes taxi back to the hangar, Chief Warrant Officer Nash steps forward, his eyes scanning the group. The veteran pilots look up, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and awe. They don't know it yet, but the truth is about to be revealed, and when it hits, it will shatter everything they thought they knew. Nash clears his throat and waits until the last of the jets are powered down before speaking. The crowd falls silent. "Gentlemen," Nash begins, his voice firm but steady. "You've just flown against someone you've underestimated for far too long. Major Eloan Frost is not just another pilot here for training. She's a test pilot for the Wraith program. She's one of the best the military has ever seen. Her job here was never to be part of your training. It was to evaluate the program, to find its flaws, and to make sure it's producing pilots worthy of flying the skies." The words hit like a bombshell. For a moment, no one speaks. Briggs stares, mouth slightly open, his earlier dismissive attitude completely gone. Lieutenant Rhodes looked down, unable to meet Eloan's gaze. Chief Nash continues, his eyes hard, as he addresses the group. The lesson here is clear: don't ever judge a pilot based on their background, because you might just miss the one who's going to take you down. And trust me, Major Frost just did that to all of you in a way you'll never forget. The weight of Nash's words sinks in. The veterans, who had once mocked Eloan for her outsider status, now see her in an entirely new light. The shift is immediate. Their dismissive attitudes have evaporated, replaced by respect, reluctant, but undeniable. They stand taller. Their gazes no longer condescending, but acknowledging. Eloan's calm, unflinching resolve in the air has forced them to recognize her for what she truly is: a pilot at the top of her game. One they can no longer ignore. In the wake of Eloan's revelation, the air at the base shifts. Military leadership, now fully aware of the deep-rooted biases in the system, begins to make changes. The flaws in the evaluation process that allowed favoritism and legacy connections to dominate are now under scrutiny. There are calls for reform to create a more fair and merit-based system, ensuring that talent is the only criterion that matters. Eloan's actions have exposed the cracks, and her influence is being felt across the program. The veterans, once confident in their unchallenged positions, now have to reassess their attitudes and their understanding of what truly makes a great pilot. Even Lieutenant Commander Briggs, who had once dismissed her, finds himself reconsidering his earlier judgments. He approaches her one afternoon, his expression sincere for the first time. There's no trace of arrogance in his voice. When he offers a genuine apology, it's a moment of personal growth for him, a realization that respect must be earned, not inherited. Eloan accepts his apology with a simple nod, acknowledging the shift that has taken place in both his perspective and the broader culture. As the changes begin to unfold, Eloan packs her bags and prepares to leave the base. The legacy of her time there is already cemented, not in the victories she won in the air, but in the new generation of pilots who will now be trained under a system that values skill over connections. Chief Warrant Officer Nash watches her as she walks across the tarmac one last time, his gaze filled with pride. Her departure is bittersweet, but it signals a new beginning, both for her and for the military program she helped transform. The pilots who once mocked her now watch as she leaves, knowing that the path she forged will influence them long after she's gone. Eloan's legacy is secure. The program, once dominated by privilege, is beginning to produce pilots who have earned their place based on ability and determination. As she steps into the future, there is a sense of hope, a belief that things can change. That talent will rise to the top, regardless of background. The future is bright for those who, like Eloan, refuse to be held back by the expectations of others.